My name is James Edward. I'm a full-time currency trader. I own and run a very private fund where I trade my own money as well as managing other people's wealth for them. And as you can tell by my accent, which I hope isn't too hard for you to understand wherever you are in the world, I know I speak a little bit fast sometimes. I am from the UK. I'm married. I've been married for 12 years and we have two children, a boy and a girl, as you can see from this picture taken in Stade in Switzerland. How I got involved with trading is slightly unusual from the story that you may have heard before, the typical story that you're used to hearing. My story started when I was on a $100 million yacht anchored in the Caribbean during the New Year's holiday one year. The guests that were on board with me that week had a combined net worth of over $60 billion. That's $60 billion of the world's wealth was on that yacht at the same time as me. They were literally some of the richest people on the planet whose names are all in the top 100 of the Forbes Rich list. You would recognize their names. One of the people that was on board was John Henry. If you don't know who John Henry is, he is the owner of the Boston Red Sox. He's also owner of Liverpool Football Club here in the UK. But more importantly, he is a futures and foreign exchange trader with his own hedge fund. And his personal net worth is estimated to be around about $1.1 billion. It was meeting John Henry that influenced me to take up currency trading. That was the start of my trading journey. Now it all sounds very glamorous and it looks like it come from a privileged background to be mixing in those circles, but it's not quite as it seems because I was a bodyguard. I was on the yacht looking after these people rather than actually being one of them, as it were. My own background is much more modest. I grew up in a typical lower income family in the UK, and then when I left school at 18 I went straight into the Marine Corps, and I loved every minute of my time in the Corps. I wouldn't change it for anything. I joined a highly specialist unit. I trained all over the world. I made fantastic friends from all different nations, but it's not generally a career that leads to high income or financial stability. You don't often find a rich Marine. I spent the first half of my career in the jungles of West Africa being shot at, and the second half of my career in the deserts of Afghanistan and Iraq being shot at. Everywhere I went, people were trying to kill me. So when me and my wife had children, I decided it was time. I needed to leave and I need to do something a little less risky, have a bit more consideration for my family. Now obviously after 10 years in a specialist profession in the Marines, I didn't have many transferable skills for working in an office, so I naturally got drawn into bodyguarding. Rich people like to have ex-military looking after them, people with my skills. And I worked for some of the most recognised faces in the world. They were musicians, Hollywood movie stars, politicians, royalty, and of course the world's richest businessmen. Now it isn't the sort of job that I can take photos in myself, so I was lucky to find these online that some paparazzi had snapped while I was in Saint-Tropez with Elton John. These are the only two I could find. Being a bodyguard was my first introduction to money and the life that can be led when you are rich. I hadn't really seen money before then. So here I was living in this world of super wealth, and it really was super wealth. I'm talking billionaires, not millionaires. I travelled everywhere by private jet, private helicopter, yachts, Rolls Royce. I stayed in the best penthouses in Monaco, the best hotels and chateaus, but I wasn't really a part of it. I was still an outsider looking in, and it began to make me quite frustrated. I was away from my own family, away from my wife for weeks on end. I'd leave my wife in our house all on her own while I lived with and protected someone else's family while they enjoyed their life, and that just wasn't right for me. I wanted to enjoy my life with my family the same way that I could see these families enjoying their lives that I was looking after. Now when you're completely surrounded day in, day out by this kind of wealth, the same way that I was by actually living with these people, you really begin to understand exactly what money can buy, the real thing that money buys. And I'm not talking about material objects because they're meaningless at the end of the day. I mean the freedom that it buys, that lifestyle freedom, the peace of mind and that security that money can give you. And I wanted that freedom for myself and for my own family. So I decided that I was going to make myself rich. I didn't know how at the time when I made this decision, but I knew that I wanted to be like these people that I was looking after. And that's where John Henry comes in. Now, I never actually spoke very much with him beyond the basic introductions and hellos, as you'd expect. A bodyguard doesn't get into these conversations. But I did spend the evening in the same room as him as he spoke to the man that I was working for. So I overheard hours and hours of conversations, and I could see him as a person. And there was something about him, something about his profession and what he was talking about and the way he described his job that really appealed to me. I liked how he made his money, and it seemed doable for anyone. Certainly I felt I could do it. I didn't have to own an airline. I didn't have to own a mining company or a telecoms business or build an empire with thousands of employees. I could just trade the markets from home myself, and I could still get obscenely wealthy. And that was something I could see myself doing. I could see myself as a trader. So I was hooked. That's what got me interested in Forex to begin with. But of course, at that stage, I was as green and naive as they come, and I really had no idea what trading honestly involved. So I went through the process that seems to be almost mandatory for us all. It's almost like it's instinctive for us, or it's in our genes or something, and I'm willing to bet that every new trader does exactly the same thing. So you tell me if this sounds familiar, because this is what I did. I saw the adverts, I read a few articles online, and I thought to myself, it looks pretty easy. I'm just buying and selling, and I need to pocket the difference. So I'll open up an account with maybe $1,000, and all I need to do is make 10 pips a day, because how hard can that be? And I'm going to end up earning megabucks in no time. Well, you already know how that plan turned out for me. It probably went about as well as the same plan turned out for you when you came up with something similar for yourself when you first started. So then I thought, right, I've got to get serious. I've got to do things properly. So I started spending time reading forums. I bought as many books as I could possibly find. I ordered a number of different courses, online and offline. I tried different theories. I studied all the different theories you could get. I jumped from one system to another when the first system didn't work for me. And to my surprise, I quickly descended into a downward spiral of utter confusion. The more I tried, the more I learned, the more I saw of the market, the harder trading seemed to get, and then the worse my results became. So you let me know. Type it into the chat box, because I am interested. I want to see what you say. I can imagine you now sitting there with a smile on your face, nodding in agreement, because that more or less describes exactly the same situation that you found yourself in. I even tried hypnosis at one stage, because I thought that that would help me get the mindset right that would make me a profitable trader. I was spending a fortune on education, not to mention the number of hours that I was dedicating to this, and I was sat in front of the computer, basically time away from my family, and it really was putting a huge strain on my relationship with my wife, because she couldn't understand what I was doing. And if you're married, you'll have experienced some tensions over this yourself, I'm sure. And this was a 2-year period in my life, by the way. I struggled for a long time with absolutely nothing but failure to show for it. But the most frustrating thing for me was that trading, mechanically, when I looked at it, still looked to be so simple. The adverts were still telling me it was simple. The trading gurus, who I've since discovered are actually marketing gurus and don't know the first thing about trading, they were obviously still telling me it was easy. Everyone seemed to be making money. Everyone was bragging about how much money they were making, apart from me, and I was stumped. I just couldn't understand it. What was it about me that I couldn't do what everyone else seemed to be able to do? So it was 2 years later when I had my lucky break. My boss at the time, the person I was protecting, had, before he became a billionaire with his current business, trained for a short time as a commodities trader. So he recognized charts. And he saw what I was doing on my laptop one day, and first of all he laughed, especially when he saw the websites that I was trying to learn from. And the next thing he did was offer to help. Now, can you imagine having a well-connected billionaire offer to help you get a foot in the door of trading? I nearly snapped his arm off accepting the offer. He called a favour from an old school friend who had another friend, so this is a friend of a friend, and she was the head foreign exchange trader at a large international bank with a branch in London. I couldn't believe my luck. He asked this lady if she would kindly give me some advice and a few pointers as to what I needed to do. You can imagine what a break this was for me. I was actually speaking to a real top flight currency trader in the banking industry who specialized in the Forex market. You know, if you could ever give the term insider to someone, this was it. Over the course of the next 12 months, we became friends, and over lunches, the odd evening drink, weekends now and then, I was informally mentored in the principles of currency trading, the way the professionals do it, and that is the key difference. I learned two really valuable, life-changing things that year. First of all, I learned to trade, and I'm going to show you the system that I learned in just a moment. I've never looked back from that first conversation we had. You know, things changed for me almost instantly. Secondly, I learned that the fastest way to succeed with anything is to find someone who already does what you want to do and get their knowledge out of their head. Do whatever it takes. Bribe them, wine and dine them, pay them, work for them for free if you need to. Just anything and everything you can think of to learn from them. It is the only way. When I did that, I went from a floundering and very frustrated amateur who thought I tried everything and just couldn't make anything work to a full-time professional. And I now not only know how to trade, but I'm trusted by other people to trade their money as well. It was just a phenomenal turnaround for me, and it shocked me at how fast it happened once I was able to learn from someone who actually knew what she was doing. You see, the problem is this, and this is what we all face. You face it, I faced it, we're all pretty much in the same boat. The problem is that nothing we're taught online actually works. We've never found an edge that means anything in the Forex market. Now let's do a very quick poll together, if that's okay with you. Just answer this question. Is trading Forex your primary source of income? Now you should see a pop-up window appear on your screen now with a simple yes or no option. This is anonymous, by the way, so go ahead and click whichever answer is most relevant to you. I'll give you just a few seconds to click those answers and submit the form. While you're doing that, I'll just take a sip of water. Okay, now let me close that. Let me just double check now. Can you see my screen again? Can you see the question, is Forex your primary source of income? Sometimes when I close that poll, the GoToWebinar software doesn't start my screen again. So yes, you can see it. That's perfect. Okay, make a note of this result. 95% of people on this webinar today are not earning a living from Forex. 95% of you. Never mind getting rich and making millions, not even earning a basic living. And that's because we have all been lied to and utterly misinformed from day one. We all were. So it's not really your fault. The information that you've been using to try and learn Forex trading is false. It's meaningless. You may as well have been following instructions to bake a cake. If the instructions are wrong, it doesn't matter how hard you try. You're never going to get the results that you're expecting, ever. And that is the case with this. You've been following the wrong instructions. Almost all of the information available online is produced by marketers, not traders. 99% of the sites that you see that your inbox gets bombarded with every single day are created by very, very clever internet marketers who will say and do anything to try and get money out of you. The only thing you will ever learn from a marketer who's never traded a day in his life is how to deceive and con people out of their hard-earned money. You won't learn anything about profitable trading. As you get to know me, you'll realize that I have an absolute loathing for these marketers who try and pass themselves off as traders when they really know nothing about this profession. And then if you try and learn from an online forum where that is just the blind and clueless leading the blind and clueless by trying to teach them what they learned from the marketers in the first place, well, you honestly don't stand a chance. And I know that because I followed all those things myself for 2 whole years, and my results reflected that. And I would still be struggling now if it wasn't for the fact that I found a real Forex trader to learn from. The change in my results was miraculous. She wasn't even a very good teacher. She's a trader, not an educator.